If you follow me over on Instagram, you will have seen the post where I asked you to guess what was inside this jar. You're going to find out what it is in this video. In today's video, we are going to be doing an unconventional material challenge. This video was brought to you by Blondie Next Door as well as Olga DIY Adventures, and we'll talk more about that later in the video. Now, let's get into the video. So as you just saw, we're going to be making avocado pit beads. I'm really excited to share this with you. It's a pretty easy project, obviously super inexpensive as we are using free materials, but I guess you could add the amount of how much the avocados cost you to make this. So I just collected my avocado pits after eating them. I did this over a span of 3 or 4 months actually to, collect enough beads in order to make a decent length. After you've harvested your avocado pit, and you've taken it right out of the avocado, go ahead and rinse it off with water. It will look something like this, and then you can just take a tool. I'm actually using this little wood carving tool from Dollar Tree, and I'm just poking it in there and turning it around. It's able to cut the hole pretty easily. Now if you forget about it and you don't put the hole in right away, your avocado pit will harden up. But no worries, you can just take a drill bit and drill through the avocado pit to create the bead. I always make sure that I drill the hole, or go the hole, see this crack? I don't want to do it through there, otherwise it's going to split, so I try to do it this way, through the crack. And you want to be careful not to put your finger on the other side. Once that drill bit comes out, it can go through your finger. And again, if you're not comfortable using that drill bit, I highly recommend going ahead and just putting a hole through that avocado pit right as soon as you wash it off with water. Just go ahead and put the hole. You can actually just use a straw that like a metal straw, and just poke it really hard and it will go right through the avocado pit in the middle. So if it cracks like this and it does fall apart, you can actually just take some wood glue and glue it back together, and that will just be fine. I do also want to add that you want to peel off all the pieces of the avocado pit layer. You want it to look like this. Alright, so now that I have a whole bucket full of avocado pits, I'm going to go ahead and lay them out on the table, how I want to string them together, and I did them in a small to large to back to small order. Now I'm taking some twine and I'm going to put it through a pretty thick needle, and I'm just going to take the needle and put it through each hole, and I'm starting from one end and working my way all the way to the other end. As for the ends, I just tied them together with 2 pretty strong knots. Now I'm going to trim off the excess. I'm going to leave about 1.5 to 2 inches of string left on each side. And then I'm going to take more twine and I'm going to just go ahead and wrap that around this just to give it a cleaner finish. If you haven't seen my other video where I made the very large clay beads, I show a more in-depth tutorial on how I'm wrapping this. I'm not really sure what the method is called, but I'm basically just making a loop with the piece of twine. After I've made the loop, I will take the other end of the twine and bring it back up to where the little tail is of the loop. And then I start to wrap the rest of the twine around all pieces of the twine. And this is laying straight over the other twine, I guess, that we're covering. It's really hard to explain. I don't even know if you guys can see what I'm doing, so we might just skip over this step. But basically, just wrap it. Then once you get to the end, you can put the twine back through the loop that should be hanging out. I actually just had to put it through the needle, then put it through the loop, then go back to the other side where that little tail is hanging out, pull that tail, and it should pull the loop in and under what we just wrapped. So I hope that makes sense. Again, if you know what this way of wrapping is called, please leave a comment down below. Go ahead and trim off the excess on both sides, and your new avocado pit beads are ready to display. I wanted to give a huge shout out to Blondie Next Door for inviting me to her Unconventional Material Craft Challenge. Now, she hosts this every other month, and this month's co-host is Olga DIY Adventures. Make sure you check out both of their YouTube channels. I will link them down below, as well as the playlist that features everybody's DIY projects they did for this challenge. Alright, so for this project, I have been collecting these eggshells, and we're going to be using them for the project. So they all look kind of nasty and gross, and they still have some of the yolk and stuff like that in there. All I'm going to do is just put them in this bowl, and I'm going to soak them with water for a couple of hours, just to kind of let the eggshell, the inner layer part, I want that to fall off. Once I take that off, it's probably gonna fall into pieces, but that's okay. And then you can actually keep this for another project. If in case you're wondering what you can do with this, I will link a video down below that I did last year on my channel where I made these gorgeous bowls. This is the bowl that I'm talking about. I think that it's so pretty. It looks very primitive. Basically an antique paper mache bowl is what it is, and they're going for such a hefty price online, so you can make your own. Again, I'll link that video down below. So after you've soaked them for a few hours, you'll be able to see like some of this yellow stuff. It'll just come right off of the it'll come off of the eggshell, and then you can just put that down the drain or whatever you want to do with that part. Throw it away. You can see it right there. That's the part we want to take out. So we're just left with just a hard shell. So after you've processed all your eggshells and put them to the side on a paper towel to dry for several days, we're going to take an old bottle. This is just an alcohol bottle I had in my craft room. I'm taking this glass, it's a glass cutter, that's what it's called. Well, I'm basically scoring the glass with it, and I'm trying my very best to keep an even pressure and go all the way around the top. I want to leave a slight curve around the top, so I'm just cutting the top of the bottle off. Once I got that scored, I'm taking hot water. I just put this in the microwave. It's like boiling hot. I pour it over the scored line, and then I put it under cold water. And I do this back and forth until the glass cracks. The goal here is to get that glass to crack and break right where we scored it. So I just put this down in the sink and with the last of the hot water, and then I just banged my glass slightly on the front end of it, and then it just broke and popped off. Now, usually this just doesn't go right for me. As you can see, the top of the glass did not like go evenly, but that's okay. We're gonna go over this with clay. If you want to remove the label, you can. That's optional. We're going to go over the entire glass with clay. This is air dry clay. I purchased a big box of it from Hobby Lobby for around $6 or $7, and you get quite a bit of it. Now you want to keep in mind, we just broke this, so it's super sharp. You want to carefully put that clay and pinch it around the top of it. That way we don't have a sharp edge that we're dealing with anymore. The clay will disguise it. I'm doing the clay pretty thick, and I'm just folding it over and blending it all together seamlessly. And then I went ahead and just took the air dry clay and went around the entire bottle to basically resemble like a piece of pottery with the clay. I didn't really want to see any of the glass. I just wanted some kind of form to work around. If you try and make this on its own with just air dry clay, it would probably fall apart. So this has like a support system with that bottle. Now I'm just going around and adding more clay, just in areas where I want it to look a little bit more defined as a vase and not so straight up and down. Slapping the clay like this will help get the air bubbles out, so remember to do that. I'm taking this Dollar Tree cat brush and I'm going back and forth around this vase, and that will help create not only texture but the idea of that this was hand spun on a pottery wheel. So hopefully you guys guessed right on my Instagram post. It was eggshells and sand mixed together. That's what makes this concoction. So now you're probably wondering what we're going to be doing with this, and that is what I'm about to show you. We're going to be taking some wood glue and mixing it in our eggshell sand concoction and putting it all over this vase to create texture. So as you can see, this piece is now basically white. My clay started to crack, which air dry clay is going to do that. That's why I think it's important to like press on it pretty hard like this to compress the clay and get all the air bubbles out so that it doesn't crack. Also, as your piece is drying, you want it to dry very slowly. So it can be over a couple of days really for your piece to actually dry if you do this. Putting a plastic bag over your piece will help it dry slowly. Just keep that in mind so you don't have lots of cracking. If it does start to crack, no worries. You can take different types of glue. I actually use wood glue because it dries really fast. So I put the wood glue all up in the cracks of when the clay started to crack, and then I went over the whole piece with this light spackling from Dollar Tree. I just took a little bit and just rubbed it, just a real thin layer. The back of this does say to not use as a skim coat, and that's what I did here. It's been about 20 minutes and it's pretty dry. The clay underneath is actually still drying. See this right here? It should look more like up in here. I don't know if you can even see that, but it should look more of a whitish color when the clay's dry because I got white air dry clay. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and start painting this, but I do actually love this with this white. I think it looks so pretty, but I do want to paint over this to give that texture, and I want to mix in my eggshell and sand into my paint color. I'm gonna go ahead and mix my colors up. I have the color, it's just a sample from the store. I think it's a lot cheaper to buy little samples. This is about 7.5 ounces of paint, and this was only like $3 or something like that. If you're able to pop into your hardware store and get a sample, this paint would be to paint your walls or cabinets, whatever, but you do get quite a lot of paint for $3. If you're able to do that, definitely go that route when you are buying paint. Okay. Because it's like a base color, it's just like a gray. It's like a light gray, almost white. I wanted to mix in a little bit of brown and like neutral tones. So I'm going to be adding in this color I got from Joann's when they had a sale going on. It was only 60 cents for this 2-ounce bottle. I'm going to add in some of this color just to bring in like a brownish color. I don't know. I'm also going to be adding in this color. And if you want, I can read these to you. This is a light cream, again from the brand Top Notch, and these are matte tones. I don't really want a lot of shine. That other color that I just showed you is called Khaki. I'm gonna take a brush and mix those together. Just creating like a neutral tone, nothing crazy. And then I'm gonna add in my pieces here. I'm just gonna sprinkle them in. Just paint right over them, and this will be mixed in with our paint. Plopping this on so you can see this nice texture that is left behind. I'm going to try to take my brush strokes this way to give the appearance that this was handmade, like pottery, like spun on a wheel. So I want to make sure my brush strokes are going in this direction. So it's pretty much dry at this point. It's just a little bit tacky, which is totally fine. I'm now adding in some dimension into the vase. I have several different colors here. That white cream, light cream color, some green to kind of mix in, add like a moss effect, so a dark brown, a medium brown, and a lighter brown. So I'm just gonna like play with the colors and just add like a little bit of darkness around the top and the bottom. Just feather in some lightness over the texture that I created. So I'm gonna work my way, you know, around the vase. I love that. I love the way it's like fading down in. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so a lot of my eggshells and sand is just like coming right off if I just touch it. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to mix in the wood glue, this, and do this by like an application of this by itself. Just kind of over the areas, and then once that dries, I'll go back in and finish painting it. For the bottom of the project, I did not put any clay or anything like that because I knew that it would probably break apart. So I only took the clay to just the edge of it. So right now, I actually have wood glue, and you can use Mod Podge, any type of glue. I use wood glue because it dries really quickly. Basically, I'll put the glue all over here. I'll let this dry and then I'll be able to paint over it, and the paint will stick pretty well to the glue. If you don't use any glue and you just paint the surface, it won't stick very well and it will scrape off the glass. So I like to do this. Then I'll go ahead and go over it with the paint, and I'm just gonna do a solid dark brown on the bottom. But so far I'm loving it. I added these like green tones in there just to add like a moss kind of effect. I'll probably blend that out a bit more as this starts to dry, but I kind of ombre it. This is actually upside down, I just wanted to let you know. I ombre on the top as well. It's like, it goes back into the gray to the brown. I actually don't mind it showing the sand and eggshells like this, but if you don't like that, you can paint over the whole surface. But I would say that it's sticking pretty well because of that glue. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up off camera, and then we can see how I style it. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this challenge, and if you did, make sure you leave me a thumbs up and comment down below which project you would try out. And if you enjoy these types of videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be notified every time I upload. And make sure you guys go ahead and check out that playlist. I linked it down below so you can see everyone's projects that they came up with. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!